So often the answers don't satisfy the questioner. That's the other problem with this method of always trying to answer the questions. The third one is, as you could see, I was being very argumentative. And do you remember how many times I said, don't have useless arguments? Okay. Do you think we had a few useless arguments there? Oh, you didn't learn, did you? 3 times, don't have useless arguments. Not one of you said, you know, my friend, I think let's leave this. It's not a good, you know, we're just having an argument. It's not worth it. Not one of you said that. I mean, obviously, I was encouraging you to discuss. I mean, the brother, he started off very well. I don't know. That was actually good. Nearly spoiled my whole day, you know. But I mean, in principle, it means he was paying attention. He wasn't afraid to say, I don't know. It's good. So the other reason why this method of trying to answer everyone's questions, it opens the door to argumentation. Maybe not if I'm the speaker here on the stage and I can say, that's enough, I don't want to talk to you anymore, next one. Yeah, okay, it's finished. But I mean, most of us, we're not in that scenario, are we? We're not. Okay, we have to talk to people and we can't just walk off. The other thing, my brothers and sisters, is this, is that sometimes when we try to give arguments based upon our reason, we try to answer questions based on our reason. Why is pork haram? Now I know that's one issue that's very well covered, okay? But, you know, some people give long explanations and scientific reasons why pork is haram. That's not the reason why pork is haram. Pork is forbidden is because Allah said it's forbidden. That's the reason why. That's it. Okay? And so we could give the people a false idea that Islam, why we do things and why we don't do things, is based upon our reasoning. Why don't you have childbirth? What, you know, actually it's not good for the economy. It's good for the economy because according to such and such statistics and this and that and emigration in Sweden, and we're trying to make it scientific. But that's not the reason. The reason is because we submit ourselves to Allah. We do what Allah told us to do. We hear and we obey. That's the real reason. So the other danger with this method that we've been doing right now is that it actually gives people a wrong idea. And many Muslims themselves have this wrong idea. So they have the wrong idea of what Islam is all about. Okay? So now, my brothers and sisters, the methodology that I want to outline today, which mashallah the brother latched onto it, is what I call the systematic approach. We're going to break just after this, yeah? Okay? And then we'll go in to discuss this approach a little bit better. What are the benefits of the systematic approach? Okay? It's called systematic, you'll see why. Because as the brother said, it goes back to the beginning. There's some background you have to know before we can answer these questions. If I don't cover that background, there's no point in me asking the questions. So as the Sheikh said to me, Abdur Raheem, there is a logic in this statement. If God tells you, jump off the highest building on your 30th birthday or you will go to hell. Yeah? If God, the creator of all things, says, find the highest building in the world and jump off the top on your 30th birthday or you'll go to hell. You know what? You've got a simple choice. Do what God says or go to hell. That's it. If God tells us do it, we do it. If He says do it or go to hell, we do it or go to hell. There's no use moaning about, oh, I didn't ask to be born. Okay, so you didn't, but you are born and you are here. Now deal with it. Simple. Deal with it. You're here. You exist. There's no point complaining about it. So now deal with it. Right, that's the answer to that question. So what are the benefits, right, of this approach? We have one answer to nearly all the questions. Our approach that we are going to develop answers all the questions automatically. Because once a person believes in Allah, and once a person knows that the Quran is from Allah and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, then there's no choice except to do what Allah said. If Allah says this, you do it. Allah says jump, you say how high do you want me to jump? Simple. So actually this approach answers most of the questions. I put most, because actually there are some questions which we will go afterwards, yeah? Because you'll say, but brother, this approach didn't answer this question. There are a few it doesn't. So we are going to go at the end over some of those things as well, okay? So it's one answer to most questions. Also my approach, as you will see, calls to Tawheed first. We start by understanding that there is one God, and we go on from there. Yes? And that's going to cover a lot of questions that some people were asking about the nature of God and stuff like that. Okay? A lot of that is going to be covered in my approach already. Okay? The third reason is my approach, or not my approach, this approach, the systematic approach, establishes a very firm foundation. Okay? You establish a firm foundation in the person's mind. Fourthly, it explains the essence of Islam. Instead of just explaining peripheral aspects, bits on the outside, it explains really what the core, the centrality of Islam is really all about. The fifth reason is the system or the way is reasoned and logical, and it avoids difficult issues, and it cuts the potential for arguments. Yeah? So these are the benefits of the approach that I'm going to outline in the next session. The next session is going to be me. I'm going to detail to you the systematic approach. Afterwards, we will also talk about some of the disadvantages of this way. Yeah? And some of the scenarios where it obviously doesn't or might not work. Okay? So, and you know, we'll probably open up for some more discussion after that. Okay? So, okay, we're going to have a break now. And we'll come back for the detailing of the systematic approach. Good brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum. Okay. Now, what I plan to do in this session is to detail some aspects of the systematic approach. Now, the first weakness of this approach. Now remember in the beginning, remember at the very beginning of yesterday when I started talking, I said giving dawah, you know, you need, it's like having lots of different techniques and lots of different things that you can use. This is just one of those things. I don't believe that this is the only way to give dawah. And in fact, I recognize that this approach that I'm going to outline has some weaknesses. One of the weaknesses of it is that the person who you are talking to needs to be able to listen to you for about 40 minutes to half an hour. This is not an approach you can use in 5 minutes or 3 minutes. You know, this is an approach that takes some time. So a person has to be a little bit patient to listen to what you have to say. You know, if the person wants a quick answer or just, I don't know, whatever, you know, this is not going to work. The other weakness of this approach is that it is very logical and rational. Yeah? Now, if you're an emotional person, you might not be able to use this approach very well. Or if you're not everyone as well, you know, reason doesn't appeal to everybody. You understand? Some people, other things motivate them. Look at the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, Hamza. Yeah? You know how he came to Islam? He came to Islam out of anger. You know, when he heard the people had been beating the Prophet ﷺ, he got so angry, he said, I'm Muslim now, what you going to do to me? Because they were all terrified of him. and he entered into Islam out of anger. So different things may motivate different people, right? So, this doesn't work with everyone. So it's also remember about the people skills. You have to know the people that you're talking to. But anyway, I still think it's a very good approach. Now, before I start talking to someone, I always like to lay down the premise. It sounds a bit like philosophy, but you'll see. The premise of our discussion. In other words, I say, listen, what I'm going to say to you is based upon some certain things that we have to agree. Now, if you don't agree with those things, there's no point us having the discussion. Yeah? Do you understand? I tell you why. Because what happens sometimes is you get halfway through the discussion and then the person says, yeah, but how about this? And so it's better to start by saying, and by not giving the opportunity to them. This is what you learn from experience, you see. When you talk to people a lot of the time and you've been talking to them for 15 minutes and then they go and undo everything you did, okay? So the first thing is the world in which we live is real. You are real, I am real, the world is real. So do you agree? I say, do you agree with that? Why? Yeah, you agree with it. But some people, they don't. Now, if you've seen the film The Matrix, okay, if you haven't, it doesn't matter. But in this film, the film puts a very interesting philosophical idea. In the film, a man discovers that the whole world that he has been living in is not a real world. It is, in fact, a computer-generated imaginary world, and he has been plugged into this computer. In fact, the computer uses human beings as fuel. They feed the human beings an imaginary world in order to fool the body of the human being into believing that it is a real world. In other words, it's the idea the world is not real. There was, I'm sure, I can be 100% sure, Hindu philosophers have somewhere come up with the same idea. Yeah, I don't know enough about Hindu philosophy, but there was a Western philosopher called René Descartes, and he put the same idea. He said, what if the world is really not a real world, but it's an illusion created by an evil demon? So I start by saying, if you believe that or think that, let's not bother having a discussion. No, we agree that the world in which we live is real. Yes? If he says yes, then I'll continue. Okay? We also dismiss the anthropic challenge as being equally unhelpful. What does that mean? I'll explain it. Some people say, the reason why you look at the world the way you do is because you're a human being and you have to see the world that way. But in fact, the universe could be different from the way you perceive it. Because you see the world this way because you're human, you have to. And I say, yeah, okay, and? There's no other way to look at the world except through the way that humans look at the world. Because we're human. So what's the point in saying that? The only point for them is, really, this is the shubha of shaitan. What he's trying to do is put shubha. That's what he does. He puts doubts. Remember I said, doubts in the hearts of people. Because it's on these things that we're going to base our arguments. So sometimes they put these doubts in order to question the whole foundation of your argument. So I say, no, this is no good. The world is real. And of course, we're human beings. We see the world in the certain way that we do. That's inevitable. But that's the way we have to deal with it. That's the way we have to look at it. Okay? Now, the next thing that I point out is that all human beings have a shared set of perceptions that we use to make sense of things. Yeah? What makes us human, brothers and sisters? What makes us human beings? Huh? Intelligence. Dolphins are intelligent. Dogs are intelligent. Okay. Huh? Sorry? Reasoning, morality, different sexes? Senses. Sorry, I'm stuck in the world with free will. Okay. Actually, there's many things. There's not just one thing. There's many things that are essential to our humanity. One of those things, my brothers and sisters, is that human beings have wherever you go, it doesn't matter. You come to India, you go to England, you go to United States, you meet an Eskimo, you meet an Aborigine, you can go anywhere. If it is a human being, there are some things that we share, all of us, and it's part of our humanity. Okay? Some of those things are to do with the way that we think and the way that we look at the world. Yeah? For example, one of you mentioned this already. You won't find a human being who doesn't understand the concept of cause and effect. All human beings realize, okay, that if you do something, there is an effect from that thing. Yeah? There's cause and effect. I push the boulder, it moves. It falls on my enemy's head, he gets crushed. You know? Or it falls on the elephant's head, it gets crushed, I have my dinner. You know, there is a cause and effect, right? This leads to this, which leads to that. Would you find a human being who doesn't agree with that, basically? Huh? Would you find a human being who disagrees with that basic idea? Well, I think if he didn't or she didn't, we'd probably think they're not human. Or maybe they're just a philosopher who's confused himself, okay? But essentially, that's what we do. We believe in cause and effect. It's our common human experience. Every day, for thousands and thousands of years, every human being has been experiencing this. Hour after hour, minute after minute. Yes? This is our common experience. A second thing, these are just examples. Every human being would agree that part of something is less than the whole of that thing. Yes? Yeah? A part of something is less than the whole of that thing. Okay. Another one, and the brother mentioned it. You can't get something out of nothing. Do we find anywhere in the whole totality of human experience that we find something coming out of nothing? Do we ever find in the totality of human experience order spontaneously arising out of chaos? Do we find that? No, we don't. Okay. It's these things that we use to make sense of the world. These set of perceptions. Not just these three, there may be others, but I'm just giving them an example. So these are the things that we use to make sense of the world. Why should it be any different when it comes to religion? If we want to know about the universe, the origin of the universe, if we want to know whether there's a God or not, if we want to know whether there is a religion or not, why should it be that we use any other faculties than those faculties that we already have to make sense of all of it? No, in fact, we use these things to make sense of the world, and we should use these things to answer those fundamental questions about what is the purpose of life? Why are we here? That as a diversion, brothers and sisters, I'm diverting slightly, okay, from, yeah? Just to make you, in your mind, I am diverting slightly. One of the things I like to do, a technique I like to use, is to get people to think about the purpose of life. Yeah? So, you know, if you actually met someone like the person I was just being on the stage, yeah? You know, one of the things you might like to do is even before you can get to this stage, you might have to just get the person to think. What is the purpose of your life? Why do you exist? Now they may say, well, I'm just like an animal. I eat and I drink. And well, you try and make them, you know, give some ideas, give some thoughts to them. that, no, maybe there is more to your existence than that. And one of the techniques I use is very simple, very effective. I ask them, what are your shoes for? Your shoes, what are they for? So, uncle, what are your shoes for? Or brother, what are your shoes for? To protect your feet. Yeah? Okay. And the watch you're wearing, what's that watch for? And the glasses you're wearing, what are they for? And your eyes, what are they for? And your ears, what are they for? To hear, yeah? Okay? In fact, if you think of every single part of your body, your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your ears, every part of your body has a purpose. Your shoes have a purpose, your watch has a purpose. And then I say to them, what is your purpose? For what reason do you exist? Right? Now some of them say, well, I just exist to, exist to exist. I say, no, listen, think about it. In this world you will find there is a certain bird with a beak that is shaped in a certain way that allows it to take nectar from one certain flower. Yeah? In England we have a worm, earthworms. We have worms in the earth. You have them, I'm sure you have them here, right? Okay? It's a bit dry for worms, but we have those worms have a very important effect in fertilizing the soil. Now they eat and they breed and they live, but that's not their purpose. They have a function. So what I mean is, what is your function? Why do human beings exist? Just to get them thinking. I said, isn't it amazing that your feet have a purpose, your eyes have a purpose, your nose, your mouth, your ears have a purpose, but you, the whole of you, has no purpose. Your shoes have a purpose. You know what your shoes are for, but you don't know what you are for? Huh? And how do we find the answer to this question? How can we know what's the purpose of our life? This is the questions we're asking. Making sense of the world. What is the reason for our existence? So then we can lay down the premise. Okay? I'm going to try and explain to you why. What it's all about. Okay. What is proof? Why am I saying this? I'm going to discuss two things. And this is, by the way, all of this is just to help you fill in some gaps. I wouldn't be, in my actual method, I wouldn't say these things, but I might use them at various times. And I think you'll find this helpful. What is proof? If you look in the dictionary, it says, because what we're trying to do here, brothers and sisters, by the way, we are trying to prove that the Quran is the word of God. That's what we're trying to do, by the way. This is what we're trying to do. My systematic approach is to try and prove that the Quran is the word of God and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is the messenger of God. If we can prove to them that, that's it. We've done our job. Yes? Then they have to follow it and obey it. So this is what my task is. So I might even say, listen, give me half an hour and I will prove to you that the Quran is from God. But I don't say that because what is proof? They say in the dictionary, evidence especially conclusive that something is true or a fact. Or the legal definition of proof is the accumulated evidence on which a verdict is based. That's what we're asking people to do, in fact, to make a verdict, to accumulate, to gather evidence. So we're going to present to them evidences. There's only one proof, but evidences are many. So we're going to give them many reasons. Evidence. Right? Something conclusive that can allow them to believe and make them understand that it is true that there is one God and that the Quran is the revelation of God and that Muhammad is the messenger. Proof is also the activity or testing or proving. An evidence is information that gives grounds for belief. That which points to, reveals, or suggests something. This is what evidence is. Look at this is quite important. It may all seem like pedantics and just playing with words, but that's what people do a lot of the time. They play with words. But that's what evidence is. When people talk about proving something, what do they really mean? There's things, there's some ground for believing that. That's all we have to do, brothers and sisters. What we're doing is saying to people, look, here is the reason why you should believe in Islam. Here are the grounds. And I always say, look how sensible it is. Look how much sense it makes. This is what we've got. Evidences, grounds, and we can build 20, 30, 40 things, and we pile them one on top of the other. And that's what you've got at the end of the day. You've got a proof. And what more can we give to people? And that's what I say. If you're reasonable and you're sane, you will have to agree with what I say. Okay. Now, it is also useful in your discussions with people to realize something quite important, and for yourself as well. There's two types of evidence, what we call subjective evidence. This is a type of thing that is true to an individual person or subject, but it's not verified by others and therefore cannot be proven. Okay? What do I mean? If you ever meet some Christians, and there are many other religions that say the same thing, yeah? How do you know, I say, that Christianity is true? They say, because Jesus came and changed my life. I was a bad person. I used to drink alcohol and I used to do bad things. And then Jesus came along and He made me good. And I feel happy. That's how I know. Can anyone answer that, please? I actually challenge you right now, right, to give me an answer. I am a Christian. I'm not a Christian, a'udhu billah, I'm a Muslim. But imagine I'm a Christian, right? And that's what I say. You say, look, why do you follow your religion? I say, Jesus came and changed my life. And I feel God and I feel that it's the truth. Can anyone, hands up please, anyone can, offer a challenge, a way that you think you could refute that? Huh? No? Go on, sister. Yeah? Yeah, but I'm just, No, it's not. The anthropic challenge is a scientific idea, okay? That's a different thing, yeah? Although you're right with the word anthropic, it mean in the form of a human being. But that's not what I mean in this case. Yeah. 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 But he says it makes me happy. I feel good. I feel, You can't. Thank you. The brother's got it right. You can't. There's nothing you can say to that person. There's actually nothing you can say. Because to him, that's true. He's had an experience that has changed his life. When I meet people like that, you know what I say to them? I'll tell you what I say to them. I say, look, I can't deny your experience. You've obviously experienced something. And I say, maybe it's just one step on a path that's going to lead you to God. And I hope that you will have another experience that will make you realize that that was just a step or that was wrong, right? But in fact, there's almost nothing that you can say, right? Because to this individual, it's true. It's a proof. It's convincing. Yeah? Do you understand? I mean, you can try and argue with them and show them the irrationality and the illogic, of believing that a man became God, and we'll talk about that. We're gonna cover that, right? But for this person, his involvement here is emotional. It's not logical. And there are many other religions that have that relationship. I once watched a program about a sadhu. You call it sadhu, yeah? Like a person who devotes himself to a god or something like that, and yeah, or a saint, right? Yeah. I watched this program about this sadhu who was devoted to the goddess Kali. And I don't know, he was below some special way he followed, and he used to sit by the funeral pyres and eat anything that people put into his dish, even if it was a dead bit of a dead body, he'd eat it. Okay? It's here in India, right? And at the end of the program, he goes on a pilgrimage to wherever, Kali, I don't know, whatever, this and that, and he has this ecstatic experience where he has, an intimate communion with Kali. Now, what are you going to say? He's had an experience. He can try and reason, but the guy is not thinking in terms of reason here. You know? If he was, he wouldn't be sitting eating bits of dead body and stuff. Right? I mean, there is actually a reasoning behind it. Of course there is a reasoning behind it. But this is the point. A subjective evidence. Right? But the thing about it, brothers and sisters, also you have to remember, is that it's not always a very good argument from our point of view as well to use these type of things about how Islam has made me happy, how Islam changed my life, yeah? How Islam has established peace and justice and harmony, because, you know, that's all pretty subjective. You know, it may have established peace and justice and harmony for Muslims or for whatever, but you know, these things tend to be more to do with things that are unquantifiable. You can't really measure them. So that, it is an evidence though, right? And a lot of people get convinced by it, you know, and some of the stories people love the most is how I came to Islam. And a lot of my story about how I came to Islam is to do with Islam has made me feel real good. You know, it's the truth. Alhamdulillah. But the evidence that we're interested in here is what we call objective. This is a type of evidence that can be examined and scrutinized by anyone. It's what scientists deal with. It can therefore be proven to be true through the accumulation of evidence. Meaning, everyone can look at it. Everyone can see it. You can't see my heart. You can't see my emotions. You can't look inside me. Right? Okay? But if I produce something, a book, the Quran, yeah, everyone can open that and everyone can read that, can't they? Yes? I mean, in theory, yeah? So that for means it's objective. It's an object we can all look at. Just, it's important to know those things. Again, that's not part of my actual discussion, but it's useful to know that information. Okay, this is really, I don't really want to spend too much time on this. But also when we are dealing with people, right, there's the issue of faith. What is the nature of faith? Okay, and everyone is looking to be sure about something. They are. People want to be sure. They want certainty. They want, what's the Arabic word for that? Yaqeen. They want yaqeen. They do. People want to be certain. Okay? So what we have is some people, right? They do that. They believe the impossible. They believe the impossible. And its other aspect is rejecting the proven. And what can you do with people like that? They believe the impossible and they reject what is proven. Right? And on the other spectrum is believing the proven and rejecting the impossible. And there's a type of, you know, you could find a sort of level here, right? And this falls into the area where we are dealing with evidence, we're dealing with proof, we're dealing with people we can reason with. You know, people up there, you know, they're going to be hard to talk to. People who are like that, they're going to be hard to communicate with. It's almost like they're not worth bothering. Anyway, don't worry about this too much, okay? It's not really a part of my original thing. It's to do with another thing that I was talking about. But it's just interesting. Now, I thought about this, and I use this quite often. Because when people talk about faith, sometimes, my brothers and sisters, you find what they say is, what has faith got to do with proof? Yeah? You ever heard that before? Well, I don't know. We get that a lot in England. Faith and proof are two different things. Right? That's what they say. Now, if we go back and remember what I said about evidence and proof, remember those dictionary definitions? Proof is the accumulation of evidence. Evidence is things that lead people to believe something to be true. It's very interesting to find that people have faith in all sorts of things which they don't consider to be faith at all. This, by the way, is useful for you who live in a secular society. Yeah? What secular societies do is make an artificial division between religion and life. Yeah? They make an artificial distinction. So if they say, for example, you can't talk about religion in your workplace, then this is something you could say. Does that mean I can't talk about gravity? I say, no, of course you can talk about gravity. So, but isn't that a type of faith? To believe in gravity? Can you see it? No. Okay. Who believes in gravity? No, seriously, hands up. Who believes in gravity? Don't be shy. Who believes in gravity? Yeah? I mean, we all, right? Who believes? I mean, I'm talking about some essential, what they call scientific facts today. The water cycle, right? Or, for example, the one I like to choose is that the earth rotates on its axis. That's how we get night and day, and goes round the sun in 365 days. Ask most people in a secular society, right? Ask them, do you believe that? You say, yes, we believe that. Then I say to them, prove it. Prove it. I have asked university students, second, third year university students have come and sit in front of me in the mosque, and I ask them this question. I say, now prove it. And you know what? They sit there absolutely dumbfounded. They don't know what to say. And you know what? They haven't got the vaguest idea why they believe it. I say, so wait a minute. You've got no idea how to prove it. So what have you got then? You know what you got? You got faith. You've got faith. You have faith that the water cycle happens. You have faith that there's gravity. You have faith that the earth rotates on its axis and so on and so forth. You can't prove it to me. You don't know the evidence for it. You just have a belief that it's true. Yes? So when they say don't talk about religion in the workplace, you say, what do you mean religion? So what do you mean religion? Because science can be a type of religion. People have faith in science. They believe it. They don't really know why they believe it. They can't prove it. Why do you make a distinction? Because believing in the existence of Allah, as we're going to see, is as easy to prove as the existence of the water cycle, the earth rotating on its axis, or gravity, or anything. In fact, it's more easy to prove Allah's existence than it is to prove those things. So therefore, that you have to have more faith to believe this than to believe in Allah, as we'll see. You need more faith. You need more trust. Subhanallah. See, everything really, believe me, in this world is upside down at the moment. Okay? But of course, people who believe these things, they have a basis for their faith. There is a reason they have a basis. For example, we could say the achievements of science, a consensus of the scientific community, meaning that's something all the scientific community have agreed upon. Right? And it can be objectively demonstrated. In other words, we have confidence that if we really want to, we can examine the data ourselves and we can study it. And that's why it gives people a lot of confidence, right, to believe that this thing is true, because there is a way that we can all look and see. So, of course, their faith is not based on nothing, but amazingly, most people couldn't even tell you that. They just believe it. And it's a type of faith. They put their trust in scientists and in science. And if they say, none of you mentioned, by the way, religion has caused so many problems in the world, well, so has science. If religion caused problems, then science is the ones who invented the things for those religious people to kill each other with. If there wasn't science, then there would be no swords and no shields and no weapons. In the first place, you can argue. Of course, it's a silly argument, but, sometimes, to get people to think, you might say things like that. Okay? And this is just, my brothers and sisters, about the nature of faith. Why? Because for some people, faith means believing something unbelievable without any proof. Yeah? To believe that God became a man, in other words, to believe that something eternal became temporary and was eternal and temporary at the same time, is impossible by the very definition of impossibility. God can't become a man and still be God. That's impossible, because the two things are opposites. But that's what some people think faith is. Believing the unbelievable, the impossible, without any proof. We are not inviting people to that, my brothers and sisters. You know what the beautiful thing about this religion is? We are inviting people to believe in something that is so reasonable, so believable, and we're going to give them tons of proof. MashaAllah. See how easy the job of dawah is? MashaAllah. Very easy. Okay. Now, here is the step one. Back to the beginning. First, I lay down the premise. Okay? First of all, I say, look, do you agree the world is real? Yes. Okay? Dismiss any other arguments I think they might put up that's going to mess it all up. If they agree with those, I go on with my discussion. Okay? I say, look, how do I know there's a God? How do we know that there is a God? This is the first thing. We want to establish the proof of God's existence. Proof being a series of reasoned arguments that will lead people to believe that that thing is true. That's evidence and proof. That's what it is. Okay? So my argument, and the argument goes something like this. When we look at the universe, what do we find? We find order. We find systems. We find symbiosis. Symbiosis means one thing depending and relying upon another. So you know what is amazing is not only do we have order, for example, in the individual things. And now, brothers and sisters, you know what I recommend you do? Yeah? Is that you choose some things that you like. Yeah? For example, I tell you what always impresses me, the termite. You know what the termite? You know what a termite is, right? Okay, it's like an ant. Okay? Now in some places in Africa, the termite builds a mound, and it could be 1.5, 2 meters high. This is in Africa, in the heat of the tropical sun. Yet this termite mound is maintained at a permanently constant temperature. The termite mound at its base has rings of earth with tunnels going through it and also tunnels at the top, and it causes air to be circulated through the termite mound. And the balance between the heat that is given off by the termites and the air that is moving through the termite mound is so precisely calculated that it doesn't fluctuate by more than a couple of degrees, even in the heat of the midday sun and the cool of the night. Now, how does a little animal with no brain figure out how to do that? How do you get such order? How did these animals figure out to produce such an amazing thing? This is a truly incredible structure. If we were to take the simplest thing, a leaf, the process of photosynthesis, how sunlight is converted into energy, the chemical processes that need to be there in order for that to happen. If we look at the alternation of the night and the day, this is a thing that amazes me. If the earth, we all know the earth is spinning on its axis, but if the earth was to spin not once in every 24 hours, but say it took 3 years for the earth to rotate, what would happen is the sun would shine on one part of the earth's surface for a long period of time, and the other part of the earth's surface would be cool. So one part would be too hot and the other would be too cold. Life would not probably exist. If the earth was much closer to the sun or much further away from the sun, life would not exist. If the composition of our atmosphere was not exactly the right balance of oxygen, essential for life, too much oxygen is poisonous. You need a balance of carbon dioxide plus nitrogen. All of these components of the atmosphere of the gases are exactly right in order for life to exist. Our atmosphere has an ozone layer, a layer that happens to filter out the harmful effects of the sun's radiation. No ozone layer, everything would be cooked. It is like a finely tuned, precise mechanism. Now, the example I like to give is, so I've got a mobile phone. It's always my favorite because there's always a mobile phone at hand. I say, you see, look, what is this mobile phone made of? What are its essential components? 2 essential components. Plastic and silicon. Yeah? Okay, and silicon is, as you said, sand, right? And plastic comes from? Petroleum. Well done, sisters. Extra point. But they said it first. It comes from oil. Yeah? So tell me a place where there's lots of sand and oil. Yeah, I was walking along in the desert in Saudi Arabia one day, and I found this mobile phone. A product of thousands and billions of years of chance and coincidence. The sun shone, the earth moved, the rain fell, the lightning struck, the oil went bubble bubble, and whatever. And after thousands and millions and billions of years, this mobile phone formed itself by chance and coincidence. I turn it on and, hello, Mum. Do you believe that? It's ridiculous. It contradicts human experience. Human experience tells us again and again, where we see order, where we see systems, something has made that order and made those systems. And the more complex the order, the more sophisticated the systems, the more evidence of the intelligence and capability and power that has made that order and systems. The other thing, symbiosis. Symbiosis is only achieved under the direction of a command structure. And the more sophisticated and intricate the symbiosis, the more evidence we have of a command structure. And the more evidence it is that that is a single command structure. Yes? Okay? And this is also something very, very important. Because we find that not only is there symbiosis between the animals, but also between the animate and the inanimate objects. In other words, the animals depend upon the trees and depend upon the air. And the trees also depend upon the animals and the air. And they all depend also on the sun. And the sun also depends upon the way that the universe is regulated. Everything is depending and interacting with everything else. This is why it makes no sense to believe there's a God of the sun, a God of the moon, a God of the wind, a God of the stars, a God of the rats, a God of the dogs, a God of the phones, a God of the whatever. Okay? Because you would never achieve that state of symbiosis. Never. It wouldn't happen. Okay? So this is what we observe in the universe. Order, system, symbiosis. So just as there is order, we know there must be something that has made that order. As there are systems, we know that there must be something that has made those systems. A powerful, wise, intelligent being. So how can we explain this universe? We look at our universe. How can we explain it? How can we explain this order? Huh? How can we explain these systems? How can we explain this symbiosis? We ask this question, did it come from nothing? The brother asked this question. Did it come from nothing? Have we ever seen something coming from nothing? Yes. We did see it once. If you went to see Syed Baba, yeah, he might have produced from nowhere a string of pearls. But every intelligent person knows that's a magic trick. We go, ooh, isn't that amazing? Why? Because it contradicts what we know to be the reality. The reality is you can't get something from nothing. If someone does something like that, it's because it's a magic trick. Yes? An intelligent person knows that. You don't get something coming from nothing. Rather, where we see order, and the more sophisticated the order, the higher the level of intelligence. Did the universe create order and systemize itself? Did it bring itself into existence? The problem is, if it wasn't there in the first place, how could it have brought itself into existence? So it couldn't have created itself. And also, we don't attribute to the universe. In other words, we don't say that what the universe is a collection of stars and galaxies. And we don't attribute to these stars and galaxies the ability to create and organize. They don't have that ability. Rather, they are in need of a systemizer and an organizer and a creator. And now this is important, brothers and sisters. If they can't do it individually, there's no evidence to suggest they could do it collectively. Meaning, if an individual star or galaxy can't organize or systemize, then a collection of billions of them is not any more able to organize or systemize. In other words, our explanation for the order, and this is very important, our explanation for the order that we find in our universe does not lie within the universe itself. The explanation must lie outside the universe. That is very important. So we go back. Universal human experience tells us when we see order, we know that something has ordered it. When we see systems, we know something has systemized it. The higher the level of organization, the more complex the systems, the greater the intelligence behind it, the more complete the symbiosis, the more unified and centralized the source. I mentioned that stuff already. Don't worry, you get the CD of this, okay? Okay, one God. How do I get from that to one God? It's not difficult. The universe must have a creator. The universe must have a creator. There must be a being that has brought this universe into existence, that has ordered it and systemized it. And the nature of this God, the nature of this being must be different from that of the creation. In other words, the creator and the creation can't be the same. The nature of God must be different. Why? In order to illustrate why, I'll give an example. Right? I want to move this board. Yeah? This board here. I want to move it. But I can't do it on my own. So I ask someone to help me. Yeah? And that person says, I will help you, but only on the condition that someone else helps me. And that person says, yes, I will help you, but only if someone else helps me. Yeah? I'm sure we're all very familiar with this concept. I want to raise some money to build a mosque or something. And someone says, well, I'll give some money if such and such gives the money. And such says, I'll give the money if this and that gives the money. And the other person says, well, I'll give money if such and such gives money. If everybody makes that condition, I will only do something if someone else does it. Will anything ever get done? No. Nothing will ever get done. So some people have experienced that. You get nothing done. Yes? In other words, it has to start somewhere. You have to have a prime origin. You have to have an original point where it begins. That's why you can't have creators creating creators creating creators, because that's what some people say. They say, yes, everything you've said up until now is exactly logical. It makes so much sense, it's so reasonable. But, and the universe needs a creator. Yes, they say. A lot of people will get to that stage, but they say, but why, but that creator, why can't that creator have a creator? So who created the creator? You've heard that one before, right? No. But that's a false question. Because the fact that the universe is here shows us that it must have started from somewhere. Yes? If you have creators creating creators, you never get anything created, but it's here. Here we are. Here's the creation. So it must have had an origin, a point of origin. And that point of origin must be different from the creation. If it's the same, if the creator is the same nature as the creation, then we have the right to ask the question, who created that creator? Yes? No, but the creator must be different. So the Creator must be self-sufficient, outside space and time, not constricted by space and time. The Creator must be therefore eternal, self-sufficient. So what have we got? Intelligence, power, self-sufficient, eternal. And it makes so much sense to believe that there could only be one single eternal, self-sufficient, powerful entity. In other words, one God. Now you want the proof that Islam is from God? You know what? That's it. Name me another religion that teaches that concept of God and doesn't corrupt it. It's not Hinduism. Hinduism teaches, well, actually, rather like someone said, where was it? Hinduism is like a buffet. You take what you like. Yeah? That's actually very true. It's difficult to define Hinduism in any way because, you know, a Hindu can really take what they like. But in general, we can say mostly Hindus have the idea that God and the universe is the same thing. Okay? It's called pantheism. The belief that universe and the God is the same. Right? But what is the proof for that? What is the reasonable explanation for that? How do we get to a conclusion like that, that the Creator and the creation are one and the same? What's the basis for this belief? That's also, by the way, the answer. We do not believe that Allah is everywhere in everything. This is what Hindus believe. Muslims do not believe that. That's not what the Quran teaches. That's not what the Prophet Muhammad taught. That's what the pagan Arabs believed. In fact, that's the very essence of paganism. Not knowing the difference between the Creator and the creation. Tawheed means the difference between God and the creation. God is different. He's not like His creation. God is unique, eternal, self-sufficient, one, distinct from the creation and different from it. Now, what religion teaches this beautiful concept? Huh? What other religion in the world? Christianity? No. Christianity shares the same idea up until this point, but then it goes wrong. Because Christianity starts telling us that Jesus is God. And Jesus was a man. So Jesus was a creation. And by the way, creation means temporary, mortal, needy, dependent. How can something be eternal and mortal at the same time? Means it never dies and it dies. Yeah? Can something never die and die at the same time? Can something not need anything and need something both at the same time? No. Can something be a single entity and be a triple entity both at the same time? It's either one or three. Can't be one and three. Huh? Either you know absolutely everything and you never forget. Can you know everything and never forget and then forget and not know something at the same time? Does that make any sense? Of course not. It doesn't make any sense. Nonsense. So Christianity, although it agrees up to here, then it goes all wrong by saying God became a man. And the same with any other religion that says God became a man. They have destroyed this whole concept. Okay? But this, my brothers and sisters, right? That's what if someone gives me, so how long did it take? Take away the other bits, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, right? In 15, 20 minutes, if you learn these arguments, right? You can show someone how reasonable and how logical it is to believe that there is one God who is wise, self-sufficient, eternal, and that what religion on the earth teaches, what book, if you open it, teaches such a clear, uncorrupted concept of God.